One of the NFL's top reporters put together a check sheet for building a championship contender. And while the Commanders might not be expected to win the Super Bowl this season, how far away from that are they actually? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Full Command Show. My name is Grant Mitchell, and happy Sunday. Thank you all for joining me here on your weekend. I know that weekend time is precious, and you could have spent it anywhere, and you spent it here with me, talking about the Commanders' future hopes. Because while they might not be expected to contend for a championship this season, they weren't expected to contend for one in 2024, when they were part of the NFL's Final Four. Of course, they go up to the link and have their season ended in the conference championship game, but nonetheless, it ended a streak of more than 30 years of the team failing to appear in the conference championship. So with a rebuilt roster around Jayden Daniels, who of course is now healthy, new coordinators on both sides of the football, and heavy investment from the front office, the big question is, how long will it take until the Commanders are truly in those Super Bowl conversations? We are going to jump into that and a whole lot more in today's video. But before we do, make sure you hit the like and the hype buttons if you are enjoying the content here on the channel. That is always the #1 way that you can support me. To all the new subscribers, thank you all so much for joining the community. If you have been watching the videos or you're new here and you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that. We're building this thing. We're trying to hit to 8,000 subscribers next. We do have one more day until the window expires on me hearing back from the winner of the 7,000 subscriber jersey giveaway. Still have not heard back, so this is really your final call to go check your Discord. If I don't get a message back by Monday evening, I think it was 6 p.m. when I sent the message, then I'm going to be doing a respin, and I will be giving the jersey to someone else. So technically, you still have a chance to win the jersey. If you want to be a part of it, all you have to do is be subscribed and join the Full Command Discord, link at the top description below. And as always, your thoughts and opinions on this video are welcomed down in the comment section below. So let's talk about today's video. The formula to build a championship contender. Daniel Jeremiah of NFL Network put together what he believes is a concept for building a championship roster. And when I think back to recent champions, this seems to hold up. And I don't know if there's a more perfect way to do it, but this formula that he created does appear to work. So I'll run you through the criteria that he presented. He broke it down to positions and the number of championship level players you need to have at each of those. Quarterback, 1. Obviously, you don't need more. You don't need a championship backup, but you have to have a championship capable quarterback, championship level quarterback. 3 offensive playmakers. 3 quality offensive linemen. 2 legit pass rushers, and 3 defensive playmakers. I thought it was really interesting seeing it broken down like this because we spend so much time talking about individual positions, cap hits, positional value, and so on. Sometimes it's easier to just boil things down to their simplest elements. And I want to explore how the Commanders fit this mold, but before I do think it's important to also talk about the coaching aspect of it all. Because the players on the field, they're the ones who determine what happens. But if we look at it as binary as do you have 3 championship level offensive linemen, yes or no? Playmakers is probably easier to visualize. Do you have 3 offensive playmakers, yes or no? A player might not appear to check that box in the wrong system or with poor coaching, but when they get in the right scheme, a coach who knows how to talk to them and help develop them, then they could appear to be a championship level player. Check that box. So coaching absolutely plays into this, but coaching is also harder to quantify. For guys who have more experience and they've been in the league longer, sure, you might know, but those are probably also guys that have been in championship conversations. Like, we know Kyle Shanahan is a championship coach. We know Sean McVay is because they've done it and they've been competing for a long time. With a first-time hire, it's not always as easy to know. So I understand omitting it from the check sheet just because you don't know for sure with these new coaches and even guys who haven't been there all that long, like Liam Cohen. He goes to Jacksonville, his first season as a head coach. They go 13-4. That was not the expectation for them. He looks like a real up-and-comer in this league, but is he a championship coach? You can't say that because you don't know for certain. So as we omit coaches and we only talk about the players as it's broken down, let's see how the Commanders check out. Quarterback, 1. Yes. Unequivocally, yes. The Washington Commanders have that guy in Jayden Daniels. I saw a stat the other day that JD5 has the highest fourth quarter passer rating in the NFL over the last couple of seasons. And I don't like passer rating. It's kind of an outdated stat. but it's still somewhat, it's kind of like when I talk about Pro Football Focus's offensive line grades. Like, that's not the Bible, that's not perfect, but it paints a general picture. It puts you in the ballpark. Jayden Daniels performed at that level. When he got to the playoffs, he had one of the most efficient runs through a postseason that a quarterback has had in modern NFL history. So yes, Jayden Daniels, there's just not much that he leaves to be desired, if anything at all. He's got the arm strength, accuracy, movement ability, playmaking. He's intelligent. He's got work ethic. He's a leader. Jayden Daniels is that championship quarterback. And I know that it's been trendy recently, ever since he started battling injuries, to talk about should the Commanders trade him. And is Jayden Daniels a top 15 quarterback in the NFL? Stop kidding yourselves. Absolutely, this guy is elite. 3 offensive playmakers. I think they have one. I think this might be where they missed the mark the most. Either this or one other, which I'll get to later on. Terry McLaurin is a championship weapon, offensive weapon. We know that. Let me immediately address the other side of this. Bill Krosky-Barrett, doing what he did as a rookie, 7th round, didn't get to play his final college season at Arizona. Got to play 1 game against the school he had just transferred from, which almost is like being at practice at the end of the day for him. Gets phased out of an offense that isn't really even suited for him. Still putting up the numbers he did. That's impressive. And when this season ends or next season ends, maybe we're looking at Bill as an easy, yes, absolutely. He's a guy who you can put a green little check mark next to because he is a championship level offensive weapon. That world exists. There's also the world where we have to remember the Commanders loved Jeremiah Love. If he was on the board, they might have drafted him. There were a bunch of reports they wanted to add a running back in free agency. They ended up drafting Fat Man in the 6th round. Like, there's the world where Bill doesn't improve all that much, or like maybe he's a good role player, but he's not a championship level star. Basically what I'm saying is I want us to let Bill earn that title for himself. Do I think he's going to be better this year? Yeah, because I think things are going to be built around him. And I think that he can be a 1,000-yard rusher this season, but I want to see it happen before I declare Bill as that guy. That's all I'm saying here. Someone like Antonio Williams. I've spoken on this channel. I mean, there's a world in which Antonio Williams leads the Commanders in targets, but I'm also not going to put those expectations on him because there is also a world where Brandon Ayuk ends up on this team, and you've got Terry and Brandon Ayuk, and then you're trying to figure out, okay, how is Antonio Williams even really getting on the field that much? So I'm not going to put him in that bucket. Chig Okonkwo, this is a big one. Chig could be that guy. We have seen potential from him. You guys know that I love Chig. He was one of my favorite offseason additions. He hasn't gotten over, I think, 560 yards in his career. And we're not just talking about Chig taking a next step, taking a leap and becoming an 800-yard receiver, a 900-yard receiver. If you want to be a championship weapon, which is the question that we're answering here, we're talking at least 1,000 yards in a season. So is Chig Okonkwo at that level? Let's wait and let's see him similar to Bill. Let's see him prove it. But for right now, I think the Commanders have one guy who definitively checks that box. And obviously, Jayden doesn't count because he's a quarterback. I'm giving it to Terry McLaurin. I'm waiting to see for the others. So I think they fall short there. 3 quality offensive linemen. No questions about Laramie Tunsil. I don't even want to say his name again because we know he's fine. Sam Cosmi, same thing. Not as good as Tunsil. All due respect, Sam Cosmi, but he's good. Pro Bowl guy. That right guard spot is solidified. I'm going to put Josh Conerly Jr. in this group, this trio of 3, and say yes. I think Josh Conerly Jr. is one of 3 quality offensive linemen needed on a championship contender. Now, I don't think Conerly played. If you look at the average of his performances last season, I definitely don't think that he played up to that level. But Josh Conerly was a young kid. He was drafted at 21. I think he turned 22 during the season. As I've said a bajillion different times on this channel here, everybody knew that he needed to put on play strength. That was the knock on him throughout the evaluation. Everybody recognized that. Have you seen the pictures of Josh Conerly Jr. recently? He's completely rebuilt his body. And I follow him on Instagram. He's in the gym every single day. I see it on his Instagram story. The guy's going crazy. So if he has that strength to his game, the potential that he had that got him drafted in the 1st round, all the athleticism and stuff like that, also his character, his mindset, I'm good with putting him in there. And then also you saw dramatic improvement over the course of the season. These are some numbers that I've said before on the channel, but just to remind everybody. According to Pro Football Focus, from weeks 1 to 8, keeping in mind he started his season going against Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Dexter Lawrence and all of them. And then he has Michael Parsons and Rashawn Gary in that front. And then in week 3, he has Max Crosby. Like, keep in mind how he started his NFL career. Weeks 1 to 8, he allowed 3.5 pressures per game. Weeks 9 through 18, he allows 1.7 per game. The numbers completely cut themselves in half. He also allowed 6 sacks in weeks 1 to 8, 2 sacks in weeks 9 to 18. And he finished the season during those final weeks, 9 to 18, ranked 21st in run blocking grade for tackles, 12th among right tackles. Very clearly an ascending player there. So to say that Josh Conerly Jr. is a quality offensive lineman heading into a second season, I'm cool with that. I know I've said I want to wait and see for guys like Bill and Chig and people like that, but there's enough there to say yes. I'm putting Conerly in that group. Nick Allegretti and Brandon Coleman. I mean, Nick Allegretti, I don't know. He's been on championship winners before, not as a full-time starter. Brandon Coleman does have all of the potential in the world. When I posted that video about Coleman and Cosmi a few days ago, there were several quotes there from Lake Lewis like, hey, they love Brandon Coleman. And with his size and athleticism, you can see why he just hasn't done it yet. So he doesn't make the 3, but I do think the Commanders overall check that box, and they have 3 quality offensive linemen. 2 pass rushers. My honest answer here is there's no guarantees. The closest you'll get is Odafe Oweh, and that would obviously be 1. I will give that to Oweh because I've been banging the drum here. Oweh was my top target in free agency. They got him. I think he's getting at least 12 sacks this season, at least. Maybe he gets like 14 or 15, and we're talking about like DPOY conversations. That's the type of guy that I think Odafe Oweh is. And I get he has a career high of 10 sacks, but it's like similar to Conerly, except Oweh's much more proven than Conerly. But you saw it recently. It was there with Conerly. It was building in the back half of the season. With Oweh, it's 10 sacks in 24. It's 7.5 sacks in 12 games with the Chargers, and then 3 sacks in the 1 playoff game, 3 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. Like, it's there. And same thing, he's got crazy athleticism, like a 9.98, 9.99 RAS score. It's there. It's just waiting to be unleashed. He will be the focal point, who will be the guy with the Commanders. Durante Jones has talked about how he's going to set up single blocks on the backside for him. This is Odafe Oweh's season to break out. So I'll say that he counts as 1. Interesting topic, talking about who's that number 2 guy. K'Lavon Chaisson. Just like Oweh was really balling out towards the end of the season and played great in that playoff game, Chaisson was on the other side of that. I don't know why I couldn't say the words there. Chaisson was on the other side of that. Him and Oweh combined for 5 sacks and 3 forced fumbles in that game. Chaisson is also coming off of a career high, former first-round draft pick himself, coming off a career high 7.5 sacks in his season with the Patriots. But a guy who has a career high of 7.5 sacks only has 1 season in his career with more than 5 sacks. It's difficult to say that's a championship-level pass rusher. Dorrance Armstrong, career high of 8.5 sacks, which is back with Dallas. Had 5.5 sacks in 6 games. I think he had 9 sacks in his final 9 games with the Commanders, not counting the Dallas game where he got injured, tore his ACL early in the first quarter. Dorrance appeared on his way to a career high last season, but even still, career high of 8.5, 29 years old, coming off of a torn ACL, and at full strength, is Dorrance Armstrong even a starter on this defense? I can't put Dorrance Armstrong there as a piece on his own. I can't definitively say that's the second guy. Then you get to other individuals such as Dietrich Wise Jr. and Charles Omenihu and Joshua Josephs. And I mean, Frankie Luvu's going to be rushing the quarterback, but he's not a pass rusher per se. So the way that I look at this is I don't see that clear second guy because of how many dudes. The Commanders are in a very unique position here because of how many guys they have that can get after the quarterback. Is the sum of the parts enough to count for that second player? And also, let's not talk about Deron Payne. Is Payday Payne? Is he showing up with 11 sacks again? Because he's gotten like 3 or 4 sacks the last few seasons. Does he bounce back to that? Does he give them that interior disruption? What about Johnny Newton, who was drafted to do that? Borderline a bottom of the first round pick himself. Does Johnny Newton give them that? So you look at all of those players and you can't say, to me, I can't say there's guy number 2 right here and his name is blank. But I would like to say if you add them all together, you stack them all up, you find a way to get that production. And maybe this becomes a question of, okay, you'll get the season numbers, but who steps up in the big moment? It's third down in the Super Bowl. Who is getting the quarterback on the ground? That might be where you have me, because I can put Oweh there. I can't put anyone else there. The final grouping, the defensive playmakers. You need 3 of them. Obviously, this doesn't include pass rushers since we just discussed them. I'll start this off with an underrated name here. If Javon Kinlaw can become that guy against the run, that would be outstanding, because the man is massive. He's disruptive, but sometimes he didn't really hold his place well last season. Pad level was high, didn't anchor down against double teams. If he shores that up and he brings impregnability. I don't even know if that's a word. I know impregnable is, but if he makes it tough for teams to run, let's stick with plain English. If he shuts that down, teams feel forced into throwing the ball sooner in their drives because they're not winning on first downs. Now they're in second and long, third and long. That becomes huge, and that makes him a playmaker. But he doesn't check the box right now. One guy I will say does is Sonny Styles. And I get it. I've been like back and forth with projection here. Just looking at who Sonny Styles was at Ohio State, seeing how much he got better, played his best game of the season in the Big Ten championship game against Indiana, knowing the athleticism, knowing the maturity, the background. We hear that he's already like buried in the film room with the guys on the Commanders. Sonny Styles might be the best player on the defense by the end of the season. I think it's going to be like him and Oweh are going to be in the running. So I will say yes. I'm cool with giving Sonny Styles that title, even though it's big expectations for a rookie. Nick Cross, maybe. I mean, Nick Emmanwori for the Seahawks, different player from Nick Cross. But Nick Emmanwori, even as a rookie, he was a championship-level defensive weapon by the end of the year. So can Nick Cross be that guy? Can Trey Amos be that guy? Can Leo Chanel? Can Frankie Louvu be that guy? Maybe. But this goes back to what I was saying at the beginning. The Commanders have a lot of guys who are high potential players, ascending players, guys you feel good about and are young and exciting and talented and you love how they fit into the team, but they just haven't proven it yet. So I can't say that there's a guy here. The guy I feel best about is Styles, and he is a rookie. So to look back on all these groups, I say they have the quarterback. I say they have the offensive linemen. I don't think they have the offensive playmakers. I don't think they have the defensive playmakers. And then the pass rushers, I think they have at least one. And I think some of the parts adds up to 2. I don't know. That's just the way that I see it. But this is also what I'll say here. As we have these conversations, let's recognize the Commanders are not all that far away. Like, if they had a Terry-level talent with Terry, whether that be at receiver, running back, whatever, you'd feel really good about them. If they had a Sonny Styles level talent, not named Sonny Styles, at the cornerback position, at the safety position, whatever, you feel really good about them. And don't get me wrong, that requires specificity. You have to hit on that guy. Like, those guys don't just grow on trees. But the Commanders have a lot of cap space, and free agency does come up next season. And they have young guys who they've drafted early who haven't developed into that, but maybe that potential is still in them. And the Commanders are going to have a first-round draft pick next year. Can you land on that guy in that position? These guys like Justin Jefferson was drafted in the 20s. If you find a receiver in the 20s and you pair him up with Terry McLaurin, and let's just say, like for this example, let's say you have Justin Jefferson with Terry McLaurin, all of a sudden you would say the Commanders have a championship-level offense. So assuming Adam Peters continues to build out the depth, continue to build out the bottom of the roster the way that he has, Commanders aren't there now, but they also aren't really all that far away. They have to get things right. And again, like I said, that's easier said than done. But if they just nail like 2 more additions, I think they might be in that conversation, if not banging down the door of it. So whatever thoughts you have on this, definitely let me know down in the comment section below. Whether it's about individuals, like who is that second pass rusher? Is Chega Okonkwo that championship weapon? Whatever it is, or if it's just big picture, how far away are the Commanders? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Shout out to Daniel Jeremiah for this thought exercise. I thought it was a lot of fun. If you agree with what I said, if you don't, again, whatever it is, just let me know. I'll be reading and responding to as many comments as I can. So that's going to do it for me. I appreciate y'all joining me. Hit the like and the hype buttons if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new around here. And I'll catch you in the next one. Have a great day.
Chew with me.